Okay, let's try this again. This is take number 3. I'm going to take my glasses off again to record a video as promised of the events of my trip here at least once. I have to get up tomorrow for orientation, so this is going to be my last try. So kind of starting with the flight, I'm going to try to talk a little fast to hopefully get it within 15 minutes, ideally 10. Got on, Azure and Dad saw me off, although Azure cut it a little bit close, and got on. Flight was fine. My partner was a little bit chatty, but that's fine. And then landed in Chicago, and I got a little confused with my brief layover in Chicago. I couldn't figure out where my connecting flight was, and I had to ask, and apparently it was on the other side of the airport, and I mean the complete opposite side of the airport. So I actually had to take a shuttle bus, and I was so flustered, because, I'm always flustered, that I accidentally almost didn't get my passport and boarding pass scanned by the staff like I was supposed to, so one of them had to stop me and be like, ma'am, and I was just like, sorry. But got on the shuttle just fine, got across the airport, okay, there's my gate, and waited until boarding started, got on just fine. All was good. My flight partner was not quite as chatty as the first one, but apparently somebody had just missed the flight, so there was an empty seat between the two of us, which we used to kind of store items that we weren't really using, like a blanket. I just used my coat because it was pretty warm on that flight. But didn't talk very much. Pretty much it was just, hey, I need to go to the bathroom. Can you get up? And yeah, sure, and etc. One thing I will say about Cathay Pacific is the flight from Chicago to Hong Kong was very nice, very clean, very professional, very gentle, and the staff were very nice in general. The food was pretty good. So yeah, overall, I would recommend the flight from Chicago to Hong Kong. To the answer of what I was questioning of some other people, as to whether I would be flying west over the North American continent and over the Pacific Ocean, or east across the Atlantic and Europe or Africa and the rest of Asia. I don't know exactly what the path would be. The answer is, of course, neither. We flew north over Canada to get to Hong Kong because, since the Earth is a sphere, you can do that. So, yeah, we flew north to go south to get to Hong Kong because that's ultimately the shortest path from Chicago. And then layover in Hong Kong, which doesn't seem as different as I think you think it would be. There's Chinese characters everywhere, but I don't know, it just didn't really feel that weird to me. Layover there for a pretty long time and really early in the morning. And I almost forgot to reset my clock, so my phone was on a different time than the flight schedule, so I was for a little while going oh, I have time, and then I was just like, wait. And then I looked at my clock and I'm like, I have half an hour. I mean, half an hour was still plenty of time because I was already at the gate, but I was not mentally prepared. But then I was, because I was ready at that point. Got on the flight just fine. The second flight from Hong Kong to Osaka was not quite as smooth as the big international flight. The plane was just a little bit smaller, a little bit less sturdy. It felt pretty shaky during takeoff and landing. And I didn't really bother to watch any movies during the second flight like I did in the first one. In the first one, I watched a couple movies, one of which was Atomic Blonde for the first time. Pretty good movie. Everyone else around me was asleep, but I, like I expected, was totally not able to sleep. I was eventually, like in the last, like, 5 hours of the flight now, or no, it was like 8 hours of flight, but it was on and off. Um, and with a flight that long, 8 hours is actually not as much time as it sounds like. Um, and then, yeah, going back to the second flight, um, they did serve a meal. Um, they served two on the big flight. They only served one on the little flight. And unlike the big one, I didn't really get any options as far as what I wanted to eat. So what I was given, I mean, the side options were pretty good, but one of the things I was given was a cucumber and tomato sandwich, and I don't really like cucumbers, so I didn't eat that. Um, and not that that matters, because I'm not gonna complain really about that. Because it got me to from point A to point B, or in this case from point B to point C. Anyway, which is point C to point D. Anyway, got to Osaka. I got a little confused again. When I was going through the foreign entrance office, it has a better name than that, but it's been a long day. And I started like handing him my uh, entrance card and my passport, and he looks at it for a second, and he goes, "Go to window 14." And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Go to window 14." And I'm like, "Okay," because I'm a foreigner in a different country. I should probably try to do what the people tell me. But I didn't know why. But I go to window 14, and it turns out it was because I'll be here for an extended period of time for 4 months. I needed a residence card, and that was the window that could give me a residence card, which ultimately is what I needed. So, didn't turn out bad. I just got a little frazzled. But it was kind of nice when I went to customs to get that first oh, you speak Japanese. When I handed the customs officer the card I had to fill out, and he's like, "Can I see your passport, please?" And I'm like, "Mate kudasai. Wait a second, please." And he went, "Hey," and then he was like, "Wait, speak Japanese?" It's like, "Chatto." Just a little bit. And so it was a pretty interesting exchange. It's nice to get that kind of reaction of not like annoyance, but just kind of that like kind of happy surprise of, oh, this is going to be easier for me than I thought. And apparently got randomly selected for a questioning by a Japanese police officer, which was interesting. But nothing bad happened. I just had to say, like, yeah, I just came to Tokyo. No, I'm not transporting any illicit materials or illegal drugs. So, can I go? There was more to it than that, but I'm not gonna go into detail. Waited nearby the Starbucks and the clock for a while. And then Yuki came and picked me up. Apparently, one of our other international students came off of the same flight as me, so we both met Yuki, and then we took the bus through the city, and then met another contact, one of the Osaka Gakuin students, who's actually another international student like us, from the United States. So she kind of helped us figure out what train to take from the bus stop to the apartments, which are not at the school. They're not that far from the school, but I think she said it's like an hour and a half walk, but like a 2 minute train ride. So it's not that far. But got to the apartment, and I mean, she forgot me. Well, she didn't forget. She got stuck accidentally translating for somebody. turned out okay. I'm fine. It was a little cold. I mean, it was warm compared to Green Bay, but after a while, it kind of gets cold. So just to kind of summarize, after that, just kind of been unpacking. There's actually a lot of space here. Like, it's a small apartment, which I expected, but like in terms of available space, it pretty much maximizes what I need and what I'll use, like in terms of study materials and tables and cooking and etc. Like, I don't really need more than they gave me, so that's good. And as far as first impressions go, like the first thing I can think of that I noticed is that Osaka is big, and it's definitely an industrial city, but mostly it's big. And by that I don't mean that it like spreads out a lot. I mean it does that too, but just everything in it is big. You know how a lot of cities, they have like a downtown center where everything is huge, and then they kind of have suburbs that stretch on forever and ever and ever with the occasional skyscraper tossed in? Osaka is not like that. The further you get in, the skyscrapers just change shapes, and they go from like big and rectangular to big and tall rectangular. Like, literally, there are huge buildings with huge buildings on top of them, and it's just huge. Like, I've been spending more time than usual in Chicago, and I'm pretty sure most of those towers were just tiny compared to what I saw in Osaka today, just driving by in a bus, which is not a small vehicle. And then second impression is a lot of things, like the cars, the vehicles are all very square. Well, not all, but a lot of them. Very flat, not quite as curved or aerodynamic. I think it's just the standard. And that's not to say that, like I said, not all are, but kind of something I notice is that they tend to be more that compact, squared off shape. And I don't think they're not all the same make and buyer, but even the semis have that same various like compact shape to them, which I think is interesting. It's just a subtle or a small difference. I did see the giant Ferris wheel that you can see in a lot of pictures from Osaka. Not like up close, but like in passing. And yeah, just the scenery was just huge. Got off the bus, met our guide, and then went to the train station. And by the way, the bag I had was horrible. It was so hard to carry / drag, and it just made everything horrible. So I was cold for a while because I had to wait for her to go finish translating for the other student that came with me that Yuki helped pick up. And took the train there, and then finally got to our apartment, which is very nice. The landlord is very nice. And I was kind of proud of myself for knowing more Japanese than I thought I did. Like, I could mostly follow the conversation of like what was going to happen with my rent and what was going to happen with orientation tomorrow, mostly without help. There was only a couple times that I had to be like, okay, wait, what? And they would pretty easily help me. So that is good. I seem to know more than I think I do. But I'm also a little worried, but I think I'll figure it out. And then spent the rest of the day unpacking. I took a bath. And then as a hey, welcome to the building, we went out and had okonomiyaki, which was very good. And I did my best to follow conversations, even though I sometimes fairly often got left behind. So if you ever want to shut me up, just like give me food and start having a conversation in a language I don't quite understand, because my brain will spend more time trying to put your words together than trying to answer you. So yeah, that's my video on first impressions. And look, it is lower or under 15 minutes.